Hey folks, today's video, we're going to be watching why EV sales have slowed. A mini documentary from none other than CNBS. And as we can see from this historical data, the trend clearly does show electric vehicle sales slowing down. If by slowing down we mean increasing exponentially. You know what people would have said in 2019? EV sales are slowing down. In the preceding years, we'd seen enormous year-over-year growth, more than a doubling from 2013 to 14. Roughly 50% increase from 14 to 15. Another 50% from 15 to 16. Another 50% from 16 to 17. A near doubling from 17 to 18, and then a piddly tiny incremental increase from 2018 to 2019. And at the time, of course, it's the end of the world. EV demand is slowing down. Customers don't want electric vehicles, they're too expensive, there's no range, you can't charge, and so on. Yet the following year, close to a doubling again, then a doubling again. You guys get the point, right? The trend is pretty clear, but over the very short term, it's very easy for folks to misinterpret what's going on. Miss the forest for the trees. Of course, CNBS definitely aren't, and I'm sure EV sales are slowing down, and this time is different.
I've been in the auto industry 40 years, and I've never seen this kind of investment.
$6.5 billion strictly dedicated to EVs.
Wedbush says spending on commercial EVs should top $1.2 trillion between now and 2030.
We're building the future of the electric vehicle.
In 2022, consumers spent nearly $400 billion on electric cars worldwide. The U.S. is expected to add 1 million new EVs to its roads in 2023. And from 2023 to 2027, automotive companies have committed $616 billion in total investments. Meanwhile, these efforts have hit an unnerving speed bump. EV sales are slowing.
I was a little nervous about going all EV because my husband has an EV as well. And to have two EVs in the house, you know, it's challenging. I think the main issue is the long distance travel.
Yeah.
We've been kind of in.
So they clearly don't own a Tesla. Anyone want to guess in the comments below? What are they driving currently? What is the current electric vehicle they own? Oh wait, these people are in a car dealership. What's going on here? Well, definitely can't be a Tesla because Tesla doesn't have dealerships. Anyway, moving on.
In that situation, you do have to plan.
Yes.
In August 2023, it took about twice as long to sell an EV in the US as it did the previous January.
Looking forward to seeing the data they're citing. Tesla wait times have remained relatively stable. Of course, in fairness, there was a scamdemic, the bashes shutdowns, the futile shutdowns, the supply chain implosion as a result, delays in getting parts, shortages of electric vehicles, a huge blowout in orders versus supply. So it's to be expected that we're getting a little bit back toward normal after an anomalous period of time. So maybe that data is a little bit skewed, but even so, customers are taking delivery of a Tesla vehicle most places around the world, especially in the US where they're referring to, a few weeks, maybe a month or so after placing an order. I'm hoping that they're going to cite some data in a moment.
Gas-burning vehicles were still selling briskly. While slightly more than half of consumers say EVs are the future and will eventually replace combustion engines, less than a third of dealers say so.
Oh, interesting. The very first couple we saw interviewed were in a car dealership, obviously not a Tesla car dealership because they don't have them, implying that there are some issues with range and charging on long road trips with whatever electric vehicle they currently own, which clearly ain't a Tesla. And now we hear that car dealerships themselves are a lot more skeptical about electric vehicles than consumers. Now, this does not surprise me for two reasons. One, hopium, and two, copium. What do I mean? Car dealerships in most states in the US are some of the most profitable businesses. Many folks doing seven-figure incomes. How do they make so much money? Parts, servicing, extended warranties. Oh, and also aggressive negotiation and or insane market adjustments, aka markups. Anyone working in the car dealership industry with a brain realizes that electric vehicles are a massive threat because they require almost no maintenance. And there's this company called Tesla who have pioneered the buy it in 2 milliseconds online without having to go to a car dealership for a set price. So any car dealerships with any sense realize that electric vehicles are a massive threat to their entire business model, and as a result, given human nature is human nature, are prone to delude themselves into thinking that consumers are not going to be as interested in electric vehicles as they probably will be. And in addition, given the fact that Tesla doesn't have car dealerships, the company producing the best products on the market isn't something that most of these car dealerships are intimately familiar with, meaning that there's piles of excrement that they're given to sell to consumers, which are overpriced, which do, generally speaking, suck, have poor range and or where you're going to charge, although that's being solved now because everyone's gaining access to Tesla's charging network. So the dealers have a very distorted perspective, plus some innate biases, hence the massive discrepancy where roughly half as many dealers see electric vehicles being the future as consumers. Now, hopefully this doesn't need to be pointed out, but just to be clear, the opinions of dealers do not matter. The opinions of consumers, the people who actually buy the products, that's actually what matters. So I hope these car stealers are going to wake up and see what's around the corner and have a plan B, otherwise they're in big trouble.
You have a product that almost every automaker has hinged their future on. The government is really saying, look, we got to go with electrification, but when the rubber meets the road, when people have to make that decision and a lot of money's involved, we're starting to see that that's starting to take a bit of a hit.
Tesla has slashed prices dramatically. Sales at some EV startups have disappointed, and companies like Ford have ramped up hybrid production as demand for their EVs has leveled off. So what is really going on, and why?
So I kind of feel like spoiling the whole video right now, but I'll wait. I mean, if you're a regular viewer, you know what I'm going to say. But let's see what they have to say. What's their hypothesis as to what's going on?
And what does it mean for the future?
Oh, well. The subtitle. The title of this video on the website was about electric vehicles, but the title of this section, or the intro, is why EVs are piling up at car dealerships, meaning non-Tesla electric vehicles are piling up. Interesting distinction.
For those who are in combustion, would you suggest taking the step as the bridge, so to speak, to a PHEV, a plug-in hybrid, or do you think perhaps going right over that to an electric vehicle? There is a oversupply of electric vehicles in the industry today that is greater than the demand.
This is Jeff Iosa. His shop is one of 383 Mercedes-Benz dealerships around the US. It pulls in about $40 million a year.
Well, as I was saying, car dealerships, quite a profitable business today, and we've now just confirmed this is a Mercedes car dealership. The customers here probably own a Mercedes electric vehicle. It'd be a bit weird to be interviewing them in a Mercedes dealership otherwise. So really what they were concerned about was the range and ability to charge their Mercedes electric vehicle. Anyway, back to the video.
Employs about 50 people, and at any given time keeps about 70 cars on the lot. About a third are EVs and hybrids.
It's not that the customer is not considering it or entertaining the purchase, it's the reticence to that anxiety that exists relative to the range that the battery can produce, and coupled with or compounded by the lack of public charging infrastructure.
This is utterly amazing. I think I can sense where this video is going. The whole thing, or at least the majority of it, is going to be car stealers talking about why the shite EVs produced by their brand, e.g. Mercedes and so on, suck, and why consumers don't want to buy the shite EVs that are on their lots, which also they're marking up by multiple 5 figures in most cases. As we mentioned, the charging issue is slowly being solved. One after one, automotive manufacturers are jumping on board, gaining access to Tesla's charging network. Not all of it, but roughly half in the United States, and adopting Tesla's charging standard in the future, most of them around 2025. But this video, I'm guessing, really should have been called Why Electric Vehicles That Suck Aren't Selling. Why demand for shite electric vehicles isn't there. Remember, Tesla doesn't exist in a vacuum.
We're perhaps moving a little bit too fast.
Cox Automotive said in July 2023, on average, there's a 52-day supply of ICE vehicles at dealerships. If they stopped making cars today, a dealer would have enough to last 52 days. Pickup trucks went from 52 days to turn in January 2023 to just 57 by August. Meanwhile, the EV supply was closer to 90 to 100 days.
So I just wanted to jump in here. We just heard close to 100 days of inventory for electric vehicles. In other words, it's taking close to a third of a year, 3-ish or more months to move an electric vehicle on car dealer lots. Well, I'm recording this in November 2023, and I noticed that if customers in the United States order a Model Y rear-wheel drive in November 2023, they can expect to take delivery either in November or December 2023, which is a good experience for the customer. Maybe there's a longer wait on the Model Y long range. Oh, no. November and December. What about performance? November and December. Well, let's try the Model 3. November, December for the rear-wheel drive. Long range, November, December, and the performance also November to December. So it appears that Tesla has very approximately matched production and pricing to the market clearing price so that customers don't have to wait an absurdly long time, yet they can still sell every vehicle they make. Once again, to me, this suggests that demand for Tesla vehicles, no qualms. Demand for shite electric vehicles, not so much. Who'd have thought?
No segment has seen a rise as substantial as EVs.
There's definitely a rise in how long a vehicle is going to sell a lot. It's just that the EVs are sitting even longer. And the fact that we're seeing it reflected in the used car market as well, that tells us this isn't just like an isolated incident. This is something that is very targeted.
Numbers elsewhere suggest enthusiasm for EVs has dampened from a pandemic-era high. In 2021, 86% of US buyers were considering an EV. That number has since fallen to 67% in 2023.
But let's go back. Was that the same source?
In 2021, 86% of US...
So I've been doing a little bit of digging here on the S&P Global Mobility website. Does the auto industry have an EV loyalty problem? This is the headline and the subline, which eventually gets to the claim that less consumers are interested in buying an electric vehicle than they were in 2021. But if we read here, part of the loyalty struggle can be attributed to a decrease in openness to purchase an EV. A recent consumer survey found that a consumer's consideration for purchasing an EV has fallen to 52% from a high of 81% in 2021. Now, is this when you exclude Tesla? I don't know. A little bit confusing. However, keeping in mind this is just a single sample, we recently covered one where consumers, 6% already owned an EV, over 60% intended on buying one in the next 5 years, higher than this by about 10%. However, the key challenges here, pricing, infrastructure, and range were the top 3 reasons consumers listed for not purchasing an EV. So, does anyone know any companies out there that have the most compelling prices on their electric vehicles, the best charging infrastructure, and the best range? Oh yeah, I think that would be Tesla for pricing. And what's the company that's got the best infrastructure? The supercharging network that everyone's like, oh yeah, what's that company called again? Starts with T and ends in Esla. I can't remember the name. And then, of course, range. What's that company? Elon Bad, I think. Is that what they called? Elon Bad? Elon Bad, yeah. Elon Bad. So it's a good thing that it isn't just a single company that ticks all 3 of these boxes. Now, I've got to say, pretty shocking that S&P, after surveying people in 2021, 81% of people were considering buying an EV. I mean, I missed that news, obviously. I was banging the drum about 62% of people in 2023 surveyed, saying that was huge. Anyway, whatever. I am noticing slight discrepancies with some numbers here, but anyway, whatever. Let's continue.
US buyers were considering an EV. That number has since fallen to 67% in 2023. In May 2021, Ford opened reservations for its F-150 Lightning, the fully electric version of the most popular vehicle in America. It closed them by the end of the year because the company said it had enough reservations for 3 years' worth of production. But by September 2023, Ford said it was ramping up production of its hybrid F-150 because sales of the Lightning had slowed.
We literally had people who would follow car carriers to the store, hoping that when it got here that the car on the carrier that they wanted to buy was available, only to learn that it was already sold.
People are rushing to the dealership. They're going bananas paying over MSRP. Their bidding wars are going on. People are like, I hope that guy doesn't buy it. If it falls off the truck, I'll buy it kind of attitude. I mean, just completely by the wayside now. It's just been 1 year and the market for EVs is upside down.
The softening of sales isn't just happening for legacy brands. The buzzed-about luxury EV brand Lucid has seen 2 consecutive quarters of weaker than expected demand.
Now, this is true, although to be expected. I mean, I called it at the time. I also called their production quote targets, which are total BS. Ridiculous at the time, bordering on securities fraud, not going to lie. See, again, Tesla doesn't exist in a bubble. You look at a Lucid, and sure, if you've got a tiny dick and you're super short, maybe buy the Lucid. But that's not that many customers. For everyone else, you look at the Lucid and go, oh yeah, lots of range, good performance, nice interior. Or I could buy a Tesla for like half or a third the price and get essentially the same performance and a much better OS, which is kind of important because that's your interface with the vehicle the majority of the time you're using it. Geez, tough choice, tough decision. Again, Tesla doesn't exist in a vacuum. The relative value of a Tesla vehicle is so incredible that a company like Lucid are struggling, even though the fit, the finish, super high-end, super luxurious, wank, 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 wank. It's just, you think about the Lucid 6+ figures and you're like, do I really want to spend that much money when I can get a Model S Plaid, play Elden Ring, my kids can watch videos in the back, it's got an excellent OS, gets better, the performance is insane, the range is insane? Probably not. I really think Lucid are in big trouble.
Most recently, it delivered 600 fewer of its high-performance, 500-mile range luxury Air sedan than Wall Street had expected in the second quarter of 2023. There are larger economic challenges. Interest rates are up, and so borrowing money is a lot more expensive. Inflation has reduced purchasing power, and supply chains are disrupted. The inflexible nature of the EV supply chain is pressuring OEMs to make EVs despite consumer pullbacks. Then there are the pressures of meeting government mandates.
Think of the lens of the manufacturer, where it typically takes a cycle time of upwards of 7 or 8 years from inception to showroom floor and wheels rolling, right? So that's a big ship to turn. And when back to the man.
So this actually is a very valid point, and even more so when we realize that Tesla, from product unveil to first production, is less than that. Even with the Cybertruck, the most innovative automotive product since the Model T, unveiled late 2019, first deliveries late 2023. That's 4 years. 4 years from unveil of the concept to first deliveries, which happened in less than a month. And this is a revolution in automotive. Never been done before. The exoskeleton, it's ridiculous. More context, Tesla's Model 3, their first volume production vehicle, was unveiled in early 2016. First delivery, mid-2017. And it's not just the fact that these dates are now half a decade or so in the past, meaning Tesla has a huge advantage in terms of getting their first volume vehicle out there and learning and improving, but also the speed with which they did this. So the dealer here is actually making an excellent point. These companies now, they're so bureaucratic and slow, and this is how we do it, and it takes a lot of time, and that it's taken them half a decade or more to start trying to release their very first Model 3/Model Y competitors. Meanwhile, Tesla's next-gen vehicle is just around the corner. Tesla has huge pricing advantages now. In short, they're never going to catch up. He's right. And remember, just think about it like this. Electric vehicles are computers on wheels. Just imagine hypothetically, if your product were a computer, because they really are computers on wheels. Just imagine if it took you 7 years from concept to production of a computer, and in that time, none of the technology inside the vehicle, or the computer in this case, improved. So you're essentially releasing a 7-year-old computer to the market and expecting people are going to buy it. That's exactly what these companies are doing. No wonder these cars are piling up on dealership lots.
Mandates, the regulatory pressures, when you have to meet those, it's not like you can just throw a switch and convert from combustion to electric.
There is a specific pricing challenge with EVs. They tend to be more expensive than their gasoline counterparts. That may explain why the luxury category hasn't slowed down as much as EVs have. A luxury mid-size electric crossover, say, will often have a higher transaction price or even a higher sticker price than a comparable fuel-burning one in the same class. The average transaction price for a vehicle in the US was about $48,000 in September 2023. The average transaction price for an EV was somewhere between $53,000 and nearly $60,000.
Once again, just for context, and this isn't an average price, but this is the starting price for Tesla's Model Y rear-wheel drive in the United States now, $43,990 as I record this, and the Model 3 rear-wheel drive starts at $38,990, meaning that what we've just heard about electric vehicles being more expensive than ICE vehicles, well, that certainly applies to companies other than Tesla, but as we can see here, Tesla's flagship volume vehicles, the sedan and the SUV, the Model 3 and Y, each start below the average new vehicle price in the United States, meaning they are, quote, cheaper than ICE vehicles on average. This matters. Of course, this only applies to Tesla. Oh, and by the way, at these price points, Tesla is still making massive profit margins, whereas companies selling significantly over these price points trying to compete with Tesla are losing $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a pop. I'm not exaggerating. Ford most recently losing 75% on their electric vehicles. Not sustainable.
Depending on whose data you use. Meanwhile, the EV buyer is changing. Drury says about 40% of EV shoppers are trading in a vehicle they already own for a new one. That is about twice what it was a decade ago. That suggests that a lot of those EVs purchased a decade ago were supplemental vehicles, an extra car.
Like if you had a 2-car garage, you got a third. And part of that was because those EVs, they qualify for lots of tax credits. You got HOV access lane. I know in Southern California, that was such a huge thing that vehicles with that sticker, they would sell at a premium.
As a Mercedes dealer, Jeff Iosa still interacts with a lot of well-heeled customers. Even he has seen evidence of this.
The early adopters were very techy, and they were very, I want to say, more in the space of luxury. Last year we had 30-something models in the marketplace to almost 90 plus models today, a more mainstream buyer.
So these are the chargers for fast charge, DC charging, and home charging.
Iosa sells an EQB, a more mainstream priced EV that retails somewhere in the high $50,000 range.
Now, just want to take a moment here. Who am I to judge the appearance of things? If you know, you know. Shout out to my haircut. Actually, shout out to everything. But to me personally, the interior of this Mercedes electric vehicle looks about 20 years old, extremely tacky, and obviously from an engineering point of view, laughable. I think in short, I would describe this in technical terms as an absolute clusterfuck. How many buttons are on your iPhone, ladies and gentlemen? Just let me know in the comments below. Is that an interface you use regularly? And how many buttons are there? Yeah, I thought so. Of course, that's got nothing to do with anything. I'm sure this design is really appealing to lots of people. That's why these vehicles are selling so well. Actually, the interface and the clusterfuck of panels probably not making a difference either way. It's the performance, the price, and so on.
Dollar range. It's not cheap, but it's only slightly above the average vehicle transaction price, and it's a lot less expensive than the EQE, which can run above $90,000, and the EQS, which can run up to $140,000.
These vehicles won't be worth nearly as much as, say, an ICE equivalent, which has more certainty involved. You know, there's not going to be leaps and... I don't even know how to respond to this. Did he just suggest the resale value of internal combustion engine vehicles is likely to remain very stable indefinitely, hence there's a lot of certainty around this? Is that what he was suggesting there? Does this bro not know? Does he not? I guess he doesn't. Anyway, let's move on. Bounds of technology and improvements in ICE vehicles, but we know there will be with EVs.
Batteries on average are warranted for 10 years to give at least 80% efficiency. That's not the case with ICE. ICE cars, everybody puts out a good car today and they last well over 20 years.
I think there's an evolving sense of buyer remorse. You see this in televisions where, you know, every 6 to 9 months you feel like the same 52-inch TV is cheaper at Best Buy or, you know, pick your location for the same functionality. And, you know, especially now that OEMs are lowering prices.
At the end of the second quarter 2023, several automakers announced that they're moving to the TSLA charging standard, also known as the North American Charging Standard, or NACS. That means there are vehicles stuck on factory floors with an obsolescing charging outlet. Charging is a sore spot for all types of buyers, whether current, past, or prospective.
This EV will allow you to plot a course and determine and predetermine when you arrive at different charging stations.
Then there is the government.
There's a fair amount of feedback that we get from customers that say, you know, we just don't like the government telling us what we should buy.
Now, you can certainly add me to that list.
67.5% battery electric is aggressive. I think by 2035, all electric is aspirational. I don't think.
The poor guy. Look, I mean, he's saying I think, not I'm very confident, but should we tell him? Again, I reckon about 2028, roughly 80% of all new vehicles sold globally, electric. Now, some markets will be further advanced than that, e.g. China, and some might lag a little behind, e.g. the United States. But roughly speaking, I think globally, 5 years from when I'm recording this, roughly 80% of all new vehicles sold will be electric, with or without any insane government mandates.
I think that that's going to happen.
EVs sitting on lots does not necessarily equal waning demand. EVs made up a record 8% of US vehicle sales through early September 2023.
Now, hold up a second. Did they just say that electric vehicles piling up on car dealership lots doesn't necessarily mean a waning of demand? I believe that's what they just said, which is true, but the description under this video itself suggests that demand for electric vehicles has leveled off, which, once again, I just want to remind you guys is absurd. They're looking at the data. This is another round 2 from 2018 to 2019, and they're claiming that demand is leveling off. Yeah.
If we looked at EVs as their own segment, we took everything and put it together, it'd be the number 6 segment in the industry. So it's not as if nobody wants them, there's no demand.
However, there is a tremendous degree of regional variation. While there have always been regional stories in auto, pickup trucks in Texas, luxury cars in the Northeast, EV adoption rates pretty closely track 2 economic metrics: pump prices and home energy rates.
If gas prices get up to close to $6 like they are in most parts of California, we're going to see a lot of consumers there shifting toward EVs. Meanwhile, in Texas, gasoline prices are almost $2 a gallon cheaper in Texas than they are in California.
But there is another reason why inventories have been building. Tesla, which dominates the EV market, has been hacking away at its prices.
Finally, we get to the truth, nearly 12 minutes into this almost 17-minute long video. The reason that the polished turds aren't selling is because Tesla doesn't exist in a vacuum.
In August 2023, Cox Automotive data showed the average price paid for an electric vehicle was $53,376, down from $53,633 in July 2023, and down from more than $65,000 a year prior. Again, that decline is driven almost entirely by Tesla. In August, Model 3 transaction prices were down 21% year over year, while Model S was down 17%, Model Y dropped 16%, and Model X was down 13%.
So, this is important. We already know, but remember earlier we were looking at the 3 top reasons that the surveyed people from S&P Global Mobility weren't going to buy an electric vehicle. Number 1, what was it again? Oh, that's right, price. Oh wait, that's got nothing to do with anything. I don't know why I mentioned that. Moving on.
At the beginning of 2023, the Model S was priced at $104,990, and the Model X was priced at $120,990. By September 15th, the price was $79,990 for the X and $74,990 for the S.
It's about 2/3 of all EVs sold are Teslas because their prices are so aggressive. So not only do we have fewer consumers looking for an EV in Q2, we actually saw that those that were, it's very hard to get beyond Tesla with their prices and certainly with their supercharger network.
Again, he's right. What was the number 2 reasons consumers weren't going to buy electric vehicles we heard earlier? Oh, that's right. Quote, infrastructure, aka charging network. One more time, Tesla does not exist in a vacuum.
Go buy an alternative.
It's an unlevel playing field when you have a manufacturer that sells in the space of vertical integration direct to the consumer and not use the franchise system. It gives some flexibility to that direct seller to be able to adjust their pricing, and in the case of Tesla, conveniently below the threshold so that you can capture more of the incentive money from the government.
Meanwhile, automakers are releasing EVs that are often selling for above $50,000. Ford hiked the starting price on its F-150 Lightning in March of 2023 to $60,000, a 50% increase over the original $40,000 starting price. Ford has since cut that to $49,000, but again, that is still $10,000 higher than the automaker had originally planned.
And remember, Ford's electric vehicle margins last quarter were approximately negative 75%. So while Tesla's making insane amounts of money on every vehicle sold, around that 40,000 or so mark, Ford is losing, let's call it $50,000 give or take, on a typical electric vehicle that they're selling. I don't think that is sustainable. Just saying.
It's very expensive to bring EVs to market. In a lot of cases, vehicles that were announced at a certain price point a couple years ago, the automaker has not been able to hold those prices in this market. And so those earlier announced prices have tended to creep higher.
Now, look, in fairness, there's been some insane inflation due to the feudal fascist shutdowns and then the insane stimulus or the business going bankrupt because people weren't free to do what they wanted to. Because it's for your protection, not their quarterly profits. So in fact, let's do some inflation adjustment right now, just to illustrate the point, because I think some of you might be surprised. So hypothetically, let's just say a electric vehicle was announced in 2019 with a starting price of $69,420. Inflation adjusted, Today, that would be $83,575. To use an easier number to wrap your head around, a $50,000 vehicle price announced back in 2019 today should be selling, inflation adjusted, for just over $60,000. So this is an important factor. There's been 20.4% inflation during that time. Also, just wanted to say rest in peace to all the people who have a pile of cash sitting around. It's worth 20% less than it was back in 2019. So just wanted to be fair on these companies. There's been insane inflation due to the insane stimulus, due to the insane, futile and fascist lockdowns during the scamdemic. So we have to be fair. A huge portion of these supposed price increases actually just inflation adjustment, not an intrinsic increase in the price.
The picture that starts to emerge: the EVs that are on the lots don't match what consumers want and what dealers are selling.
Bro, that is the truest thing we've heard in this entire video. The electric vehicles that are sitting on car dealership lots, which immediately automatically excludes Tesla vehicles, are turds that consumers don't want. Now, call me crazy, but I would assume that most consumers don't want a turd, won't pay for a turd, and that's why all the turds are still sitting around on the car dealer lots rather than being sold.
Don't get rid of your combustion car. I would like...
Clearly, that was not a nervous laugh from somebody who knows his entire business is going to get disrupted. What they do per year, $40 million in sales. Now, I'm no genius here, but let's just say they're making 10% on that in terms of profit. $4 million a year, not bad. If it's 20%, that's $8 million a year, not bad. Enjoy the gravy train while you can, my friend.
I'd like to see the government reassess their regulatory pressures and perhaps revisit the incentives through the IRA.
EV inventory is going to rise at the same time that the auto industry continues to launch more and more EVs at that $50,000 to $60,000 price point, which is already well saturated. There's demand for EVs. It's just that they're Teslas and they're a lot lower priced than what we see.
Got to give credit where it's due. They're calling it, they're nailing it, they're accurate. To borrow a phrase from Mr. Catchphrase himself, it really is Tesla's world and everyone else is paying rent. Thus far, this video has been a tale of Tesla making and selling electric vehicles and everyone else trying and failing because they can't make them affordable enough and they suck. What a surprise.
Perhaps we could hit the rewind button and do things differently than we have. I would like to think that maybe we would have slowed things down, maybe been more in the space of hybrid as a bridge to a more perfected battery technology. We have been in the space of combustion, ICE, for over a century. So we have a lot of experience with it. Battery electric is at ground zero. We don't know what we don't know, and we're still kind of cutting our teeth with it. Clearly, I believe that we've moved a little bit too much and too fast.
But there are reasons to be optimistic. The S&P study showed that people were willing to accept charging times of up to an hour and less range on an EV than on an ICE vehicle.
That's another shining light for EVs, is again this understanding that they're not necessarily going to get what they get with their typical ICE vehicle, but they are actually willing to accept something less than what they're getting with their ICE vehicle.
And while the number of buyers considering an EV did fall from 2021 to 2023, it is still higher than it was in 2019.
The analogy that I like to use is we all have smartphones today, and most of us had flip phones. And if I said to you, give me your smartphone and I'm going to give you back a flip phone, it would be like saying, give me your EV, I'm going to give you back a combustion. And I would say that 90+% of the people, including myself, would say, I'm good. I'm keeping my smartphone, I'm keeping my electric car. You don't want to go backwards.
Now, that's actually a very valid point. I've got to give credit here. For a car dealer, the guy's being fairly reasonable. Now, I just wanted to go back a second because this analogy with the smartphone is actually great. We heard earlier that consumers are willing to accept less to get an electric vehicle, perhaps less in terms of slightly more inconvenience on the few occasions you're doing a road trip, but let's continue that analogy. Anyone remember how long their old Nokia brick phone lasted on a single charge? How many days? Upwards of a week? You remember that, right? Maybe you don't. Well, I do. Now, how long does your iPhone last on a single charge? A day if you're lucky. Yet, how many of you would happily return your iPhone for a Nokia brick? Approximately 0. Exactly. EVs are here. If you make them and they don't suck and you offer relative value versus a Tesla, which is kind of difficult, not going to lie, they will sell. The Chinese companies have figured this out, but it is true. Companies like Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Volkswagen, Toyota, Ford, General Motors, they're not there yet. And as a result, they're probably not going to be in business before the decade's out. These are what we call the facts. Want more content? Early access? Bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. Athletic Greens AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. Athletic Greens AG1 is an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a fuck ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. It certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point and something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy. Wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1, is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it, you'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, this is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my God, snake oil salmon sold out. Oh my God, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, when I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. And remember, there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. There's nothing to lose here. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. Get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link at the pinned comment and please let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use. I'll be recording some more exclusive content for Patreon and my Twitter subscribers. So click the links at the pinned comment, see you over on Twitter and or Patreon, and don't forget to grab your AG1. Love ya.